Genealogy is one of my favourite pastimes, but you might not know a lot about it. Hi there, if you're new here, my name is Tanya and I am obsessed with genealogy. Have you ever wondered where you came from? Have you ever thought, gee, I wonder who my parents' parents or my parents' parents' parents were? Well, that's something that just does not leave my mind. It's one of my most favourite things to look up and to learn about, and it has been ever since I was around about 6 years old. So when I was in primary school, my teacher encouraged us to learn as much as we could about our family tree. And so I can remember going and speaking to my grandmother, so my mum's mother, about her family and her family tree. And at that time, she pulled out some old photographs of her dad and showed me those photos and talked a bit about him and his stories and his life and who he was. She also had things lying around the house that were to do with her parents. You know, there was an old suitcase that had my great-grandfather's initials on it. There were letters. There were loads of family photographs and things like that. And just pieces of other people's past, I suppose. And I seriously became so interested in them that I wanted to learn about them. I wanted to put their memories down on paper. So years ago, there were no sites online, no internet. There was no sites online like Ancestry, Family Search, any of that sort of stuff. It was all done by hand. And if you're going to start your family tree now, if you're interested in looking up your family, then I would suggest that you start by hand as well, that you don't run straight away to Ancestry online. That's a tool that you can use in the future, but to get started right now, you want to use the tools that are all around you. You want to use your family. You want to use the people that know the stories. And not only that, you want to try and grab as much documentation as you can. So you want to get all of the information that's out there in the hands of other people. So who should you start with? Well, the logical step would be to start with the people closest to you. So start with your parents or a sibling, something like that. If you don't have your parents around anymore, go to an auntie or an uncle, someone else that's on their same level, so on that same generation. And if you've got people that are older than that, like a grandparent or a grand aunt or uncle, then I would highly suggest that you try and get in contact with them too, because they're likely to have the older photos and the older memorabilia and things like that. What types of things should you be looking for? Well, obviously, birth certificates are always going to be full of information, but they're not the only certificate that you can look for. So you can look for a marriage certificate. That's often going to give you information about both families above you, and also death certificates actually come in quite handy as well. Now, they're obviously not the nicest thing to ask for, but they do help with finding out more information. So if you feel close enough to your family to ask them, then I would suggest you do. So if I was starting again today, there'd be a few things I'd be writing down. For example, I'd be writing down the name of the person, their date of birth, if they got married, their marriage date, and if they have died, I'd put down their death date as well. You're also going to want to put down as many locations as you can find. So for all of those dates, for all of those important moments, you're going to want to try and find a location that they happened in. So where were they married? Where were they born? Where did they die? If you can find out more than that, like who did they marry? In which hospital were they born? What did they die of? Then, of course, all of that information is also going to come in handy. So write it all down and don't forget to look at their siblings. Quite often, it's really interesting to find out, how far apart people were born. Were they born in the same city or were they born in different cities? Because that can often be like an indication that the family moved. There's just so much information out there. And I have a book and I just jot it all down in my book. And then afterwards, I head over to Ancestry. Now, you're probably all wanting to know about what to do on Ancestry and the website, but I'm not going to tell you any of that right now. I'm actually going to save that for a whole nother video, and I'm going to get you to come back and we'll do Ancestry another day. But for now, I just want you to focus on what can you get in the way of documentation and how should you store it. I would highly suggest to you that you get just one book to keep all of the information in for the start, because it can become overwhelming and you can end up with pieces of paper in every drawer. So my suggestion is you start out with one book. But I will tell you, I have a book for each of my grandparents, and I now have more grandparents than I originally started with. So Of course, everyone has 4 grandparents, but I recently found out that one of mine is not blood related, and so therefore I have found the biological grandparent. So now I have like a 5th grandparent, so to speak, which of course means more documentation. So keep it all written down in one book in one location that you can continually go back to and look up. Old photographs are so important, so don't let anyone throw any out. Grab them all and at least digitize them for your family if you're not going to keep the photos themselves. Passports will tell you where somebody has been. War records will be able to give you information about who the next of kin was, and also obviously where they went in war and who they were with. There's just so much information out there, so gather it. Maybe you're thinking like, where do I start? Start with yourself. You are person number 1, the root person of your family tree. And from you, there's people beside you perhaps, and then people above you. So start, just get out there and look for those people. Write everything down that you come across. And over time, it's all going to add up. Now, don't just believe things that you see online. If you are looking for information online, then make sure that you clarify whether that information is actually true. If you're interested in birth records or marriage records or death records, then the birth, deaths and marriages registration in your local city is going to be your best friend. So what are you waiting for? Go and find yourself a notepad so you can jot things down. Grab a pen, get a coffee and get started. Write down what you know, and then moving forward, go and ask the people in your family what they know and what they can tell you about others. If this video has been at all interesting to you, I would love it if you would think about subscribing to my channel and giving me a big thumbs up. And I look forward to talking to you in the future about genealogy again. Bye.